Good evening.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to welcome a Disney animator to G-Fest today. I am Don Johnston, your AV director, and this is Philo. Give it a big round of applause. So Philo, what brings you to G-Fest today?
First time, people got interested in my involvement with a little show called Godzilla at Hanna Barbera in 1978.
Can you give us a little bit more background information from that animated series?
What would you like to know?
How much were you involved in it?
Well, it was my second year at Hanna Barbera. There were no schools for animation at the time. They're plentiful now, but especially to learn the limited form, which still is the way television shows are done. It's an economical way to do animation. I think they actually refer to it as moving slides now with digital process. Flash is kind of along those lines too. So. I was working in the assistant animator pool with my supervisor, John Boersma, and he knew I was interested in Johnny Quest when I was a little boy. Like 63 or 4 when that was on originally, I couldn't get enough of it. So I loved the style of it. And so he had that in his mind, and we were doing Super Friends. It was probably the second or third season by then. How about that? And there was an episode that was very much like Johnny Quest. It was drafted and it had shadows under the chins and very graphic, like a comic book, but it moved. So he gave me a lot of the scenes to do. These guys in the Antarctic, I guess, wearing furry hoods and things, and I said, wow, this is cool. It is kind of like Johnny Quest. So around that same time, they were, I didn't know anything about it, but they were planning to boost up their design department, and one of the shows they were planning to do was Godzilla, their own version. So I knew nothing about this. The Godzilla crew was forming up in the penthouse, way in the top, of course, in the Hanna Barbera. So Doug Wildey, who was the original producer of Johnny Quest, was going to be in charge of Godzilla. They wanted a similar look, so John Boersma asked me, would you like to try to get into the design department and maybe work with Doug Wildey on Godzilla? And I said, well, yeah, is the Pope Catholic? Yes, thank you. So I ended up working in the room with the main supervisor of model design. We did all the TV shows that came down the pike, designed the secondary characters, the main characters, everybody, for several series. And so I sat with Bob Singer in his room and started working on Godzilla.
Any personal reflections on any character designs for the Godzilla show?
Yes, well, I wanted to see the original translated directly into, cartoon form, but for reasons of cartoon economy, that's not possible. So gone was all that wonderful texture that he has, the long, elegant neck. He actually has shoulders, which I didn't like, but they gave him shoulders, so he actually looks more like a guy in a suit, I think, now in cartoon when I look at it today, instead of the long, elegant necked Godzilla from 1954 or so.
Any favorite secondary characters from the show?
Well, probably Godzuki. I wasn't very helping the nose back yet the first time, but he kind of grew on me. So. Later, the one I couldn't stand was Scrappy Doo. And I really didn't like him. Gonzuki was fine.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest coming to the panel right now. Please welcome Charles.
Hello.
I'm doing my impersonation of Charles right now, but now I'm going to let Charles be Charles.
You would have to be on roller skates to do this.
He was just talking.
I was just talking about that, Charles.
Yes. I'm almost fully healed up.
Exactly.
I had 8 surgeries last year.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Charles take over the panel discussion. Guys, enjoy the rest of the
Wait,
show.
I could let you do it all?
No!
Dang.
You can ask me pertinent questions about Godzilla in 1978.
Oh. Wait, what's Godzilla?
Oh, yeah, right.
G-Fest, brother.
Yeah.
G-Fest. You know, years ago, I was at this place for a thing called GlamourCon, and it was right next to a Magic the Gathering con. And GlamourCon, I thought was a makeup convention. Yeah. And I didn't. Now, my friend Carrie Kendall invited me, and apparently she was Miss September 1990. And everybody else was a Miss something, year.
Miscellaneous.
Yes. And I realized, this is a Playboy convention. I'm the only guy here. And what was amazing was watching those.
And you're complaining.
Yeah. Well, I was shy. But then you have all these Magic the Gathering guys poking in. And then it's like, are you 18? No. And they snibbled away the ones who were like, snuck in. Can I get your autograph? Oh, yes. Okay, I got a Black Lotus. So then when I heard G-Fest, I thought, okay, did GlamourCon like just cut off the rest of its like G-string?
Cut off what?
I don't know. But there's something G, and I'm not going to say it. But now I know this is a Godzilla convention. And by the way,
Thank God.
all of you have been fans of something incredible, something that's lasted more than 50 years. I think you should all give yourselves a round of applause.
That's right.
And like you, I'm fans of the 2 Gs, the big G, which is Godzilla, and then the little G, known as Gamera, but that's a different convention entirely. But this man here has had an amazing career.
I love Mothra.
Yes, yeah, he's a Mothman.
Mothra.
Can you imagine that to heavy metal music?
I've heard it.
Mothra! Mothra! Yeah! Get away from me! Mothra! Yeah! Mothra! Yeah! Do it with God! Yeah! Okay. No, that's the bad part!
You're right about me.
Okay. Now, Mr. Barnhart. Oh, I spilled water.
Yes, sir.
I understand that you are a former animator.
Yes.
Do you still animate?
On occasion, and I teach it also.
Now, if you've worked on an old program and started animating it, would that make you a re-animator? So, what I like to do is people have lots of questions, things like that. People are big fans, and sometimes I can feel burning questions in their minds. Do you want me to just ask you some questions, or do you want our wonderful audience, like that guy there,
Well, let's
right
get some
there?
people out there to ask.
Yes, I like that lady, you.
Or change.
Raise your hand, the lady in black. They're blinking a lot. Okay, guy behind you with the good beard, Mr. Beardo. Yes, you, stand up. Wow, okay, who's strong enough to stand up and ask this man? Okay, you, stand up. All right, if you have a mic, go to him, because he gets to ask you questions. Stay
It's all right, I can project.
You know what that means? That means he is a real man.
Yeah, so we all grow up here.
Yeah.
It's okay, I don't need it. You mentioned that when you were designing secondary characters for the Godzilla series. I'm just kind of curious about that character development. You guys just sit around at a table and start throwing out pictures and drawings and see what sticks, or do you actually go in and you have something in mind, or something that you started like the original Godzilla, you wanted the original Godzilla, and you end up looking like a linebacker for 49ers or something? How does that whole process work?
Well, there's a lot of meetings initially, and just like there was on Mermaid when I was designing that for Disney, just on her hair alone, there were many, many meetings. So there's always meetings about, body parts and, the overall character too. But then people go off and they're kind of insulated and isolated from each other, and they put all their ideas on one piece of paper together, and they pick their favorite outcome and they put that stuff together. And it's just a long process, but then finally everyone agrees. It's just, you meet with each other, you meet with yourself.
Would you say that when you design a character, you almost treat it as an audition?
Yeah.
Can you get more in that detail? Because sometimes you might, like I want a scientist. So what would you do to make a scientist?
Well, you would immediately think of maybe some of the actors or actresses you've seen in movies that are your favorites, what made their performance so special, or maybe there's something unusual about the way they look. And, you just start thinking about what that character is all about, and for example, when you're doing a villain, the question is, should they be bad, should they look bad, or should they be both? So a character like Gaston, for example, I know I'm getting off topic, but he's a handsome character, but he's definitely bad. So there's a number of ways you can go with different types of characters.
When you were working on the Godzilla series, did you animate it, or what was your main role? And can you talk about the evolution and how you got involved?
Well, I started in animation.
Can somebody bring a dry eraser board so he could draw something up there? That would be cool to see, right?
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Well, we're having a panel about drawing Godzilla tomorrow. So
Yeah.
around 10 o'clock or so.
Yes.
So if we don't get to do that today, I hope you'll come back tomorrow.
Yes.
But yeah, I was telling them before you were able to come in.
Before I interrupted.
We started Godzilla in the penthouse at Hanna Barbera. It was a really secluded area on the top of the building. And this building was made in the 50s, probably 57, the year I was born, actually. It had a mid-century concrete curtain in front. It was on quite a boulevard. It still is. It's a historical landmark building now. But over the years, we had a modern building built adjacent to it, and we had a catwalk built across the buildings. That became a ballet workout center after the studio closed there, and then they finally tore that out years later. And the original building that we worked in is still standing, so I feel real good about that. It just doesn't say Hanna Barbera on the top anymore, where the penthouse was. So, but that's where we started life, and I was thrilled because I got to meet Doug Wildey, who was the producer of Johnny Quest. And,
That's cool.
his artistic influence was all over that show. It looked like a lot like his own comic art, which is why Hanna Barbera hired him to begin with in the 60s. So they brought him back to do Godzilla.
Would you say that loosely that Johnny Quest might exist in a Godzilla universe, or a parallel Godzilla could exist in the Johnny Quest universe?
Well, certainly, except the clothing we gave the human characters was definitely 70s, so that would be out unless there was some time travel involved. And, frankly, I didn't like their clothes ultimately because they had no rear ends. They were drawn with the flared pants, which were very big at the time in '78, and they had no rear ends.
Wait.
And it was like seeing a surfboard with a human part on top.
Wait. You mean all the girls, you could say they were a cutie, but they ain't got no booty?
They had no booty, and yeah, everybody wore pants, of course, but they all flared.
Did Godzilla have booty?
No, Godzilla had plenty of booty.
Okay, just making sure.
We just had to cut down on the number of fins that he had on his back for reasons of drawing the character over and over again.
How many fins did he? Oh, yes.
Well, I was just going to ask, how long in time or days or hours did it take you to develop the Godzilla character that was finally seen on the show?
The question is, how long did it take to develop the great, brilliant Godzilla for the TV animated screen.
Well, they had started about 6 months before, and I joined them on about the third month. So
6 months?
for me, it was yeah, like half a year in pre-production. And I finally got to meet the crew upstairs in the penthouse. I was sitting with Bob Singer, the head of all model production, in his room. And I never did go back to assistant animation. I got busy making models, and that was it.
Yes, oh great, brilliant gentleman in the front.
Okay, you mentioned Godzilla's neck. Why do all those Hanna Barbera characters have like neckties for? What is that? What is behind that exactly? Just saying.
It's a secret sex club.
Why does Godzilla have a necktie and it's the Hanna Barbera?
There's a certain kind of style that every studio has, and that was kind of their thing.
I pretty much know why they did that.
Come up here. You know what? You're going to come up here and you're going to mention it and mention your name.
I've always wondered what was with the neckties in Hanna Barbera.
They're perverts. It's like, come on, I'll choke you, Daphne. Oh, please. What's your name?
Cameron.
Say it in the mic.
Okay. Now,
He's
I'll make it as
terrified.
simple as possible. When, you know how you see cartoon characters with only 4 fingers instead of 5? That's to cut down on cost and cells. The neckties are anything covering around the neck for Hanna-Barbera. That's just to save, do only the head movements and not the rest of the body. To save time and money on cells. It's cheaper that way.
You don't have to show their neck, you can just bob their head.
Go on, Mr. Barnhart.
Oh,
Yes. You have a question?
no,
Oh,
gentlemen.
you, yes.
I'm actually an animation director. I'm
Uh-oh.
curious about, like, how was, like, the sense of community or such? Was it, like, when you were working there, did it feel like, was everyone, like, really working together? Did everyone enjoy each other's company? Was everyone just having fun? Or was it more like it was, like, cut off in places? Just wondering.
Basically,
No, it was very good. Probably the most fun I ever had working in the studio was my days at Hanna Barbera. We started by training 2 days a week, learning the business of in-betweening with the hope of getting hired. And 30 of us went in, and 30 of us were hired, and they became my friends for life. But the old timers welcomed us in too, and we just had a ball. We were able to be zany every day, goofy, and cartoons were pinned up all over the studio. It had nothing to do with the production, but we were allowed to be creative that way and to blow off steam. So it made for a very fun working environment.
one thing I will add, and then we'll get you to actually get behind that gentleman. We'll form a line which will make it more fun. At Columbia College, I took filmmaking, and a little degree right here. The filmmaking was so aggressive that in our midterms we had cigarette holes put in for some of our negatives, which means it would affect our grade adversely. When I tried to get people to help me with the final exam, it didn't happen. I ended up pixelating my characters, which is movement, doll movements, a little battle with my toys and stuff. And I was suggested to go into animation. In animation, I bought the best of the best of supplies, rapidoglyphs, which are very expensive, like $100 for a case. College student, that's a lot. I forgot it there. And of course, my assumption is gone. I bought myself a new set. But a week later, I came back. The assistant said, "Hey, Charles, I know you forgot rapidoglyphs. I hope you don't mind we let the other students use it, but we took very good care of them." And I donated it to the class because I realized what type of community animation has and how we look over each other's backs. If he's having a problem with something, I might go there, correct it. If he asks, vice versa, I might correct it. It's a wonderful community. All right, now we're going to go to you, blue shirt. You're going to say us your name and you're going to ask your question, please.
Hi, my name is Mike, and I have a two-part question, actually. One, mentioned character development and designing the characters based on, possibly on some actors. Now, Ted Cassidy was the voice of Godzilla.
Yes, he was.
And he's a big, broad-shouldered guy.
He also did the vocal for the main titles.
Oh, he did?
I had no idea he could sing until
I mean, no, he also did the Frankenstein Jr., right? But now, you mentioned limited animation, and the development of the shoulders, was that to kind of add, to be able to separate an arm, or was that a design because it's Ted Cassidy, or was it totally independent?
Probably a little of both, but primarily it was so the animators could have a place to separate, the torso from the arms. So the limited animation, everything gets separated, the heads, everything. In the case of Godzilla, though, a lot of times he was just drawn all together. But they would do walk cycles of him, plodding very slowly. Like that, and they would put this heavy shadow around his belly. We started by designing that in, heavy shadow under his chin and under his belly, to try to make him look massive. But often I found that odd looking though, especially when it was in color.
But mentioning as a design, you mentioned Doug Wiley, he designed but also Alex Arnold was involved in
Yes,
a lot
Alex was still there when I started.
and then seemed to have a similar style with the heavy shadow and the black and white, and I'm wondering if you got a chance to...
It's a very mid-century comic book kind of thing. I still love that style. I did. Very briefly because he was on his way out when I got there. You can bet I checked the file cabinet for his stuff constantly to get inspiration. We all did.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr.
Hi, my name's, oh yeah, we actually met up yesterday.
That's right.
Was there a particular reason why they decided to voice act Godzilla as opposed to a glove on a bass string? Or was it just production or copyright or just not making it scary kids?
Oh, well, Ted had a lot of experience doing that kind of thing for Hanna Barbera before.
Oh.
And in fact, long before that, he did the voice of Injun Joe. He actually played the part in live action, the live action children in that series. I can't remember the name of the show now. It was The Adventures of Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn, one of them. Tomahawk or something like that. But if you look it up online, you'll see combined animation with live action. Which isn't something that Hanna Barbera did often, but they would always caricature Injun Joe would play another villain. And he would always have the same scar on his cheek, but Ted Cassidy got a lot of mileage out of that show.
Alright, so it just sounds like a lot of confidence in teamwork. I mean, I just would have preferred that they use the role, but they don't try.
It's akin to having Andy Serkis play King Kong in the remake Peter Jackson. It's just a good thing to have as an animator to have some kind of vocalization.
Yeah, and another thing, it could be a copyright issue, paying fees and royalties, and they may have been able to reproduce it, but by altering, like a good example, Star Trek. The Paramount CBS debacle where the movie Star Treks now have to be 25% different so that they can claim a copyright to that.
They can only be 15 minutes.
Right. Well, no, that's a fan film. That's a fan film. But I'm talking about the motion picture stuff. With
oh yes, the CBS.
Yeah, and with them doing their version of the Godzilla Monster Scream, they could keep it, and I've heard it used in other cartoons where it sounds like the Godzilla from it, but it's their property. Which I never knew until this year. I mean, that's genius. It's like no wonder creepy cellos.
Can I tell you my funny story of how I met Ted Cassidy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it was early on, and I had a handful of Pete's. Remember Pete Darian from the show, the little kid? With the floppy blonde hair. The wannabe Johnny Quest. I had a handful of drawings. I was taking them down to the Xerox room very, very quickly down the spiral staircase, and I ran smack into Ted Cassidy, who was there recording that singing vocal for the titles that very same day. And of course he knocked me on my can instantly. The man was a giant. My nose probably hit him about here. So, and I was 6'3" then.
I guess he was
That's
Godzilla.
huge. So he started to laugh, and the next thing I see this hand the size of a dinner plate in diameter reaching down and lifting me up. So I took his hand and he lifted me up. I thought, wow, he must live in the sun because he was very, very tan. I said, this is not Lurch, but it's the same guy. I know it is. So he said, are you okay? And I said, yes, thank you for lifting me up. I'm so sorry. I'm in a hurry to get these to the Xerox room. And I said, you're Ted Cassidy. He said, well, yes, I am. So he told me he was there to record. That was great. That was the icing on my day.
Young lady, please announce your name and please give us your question.
Hi, I'm Nina Marie. I actually spoke to you yesterday. I was wearing a kimono. Yeah, so
You're
my
on the cool list.
My question is, did you have a favorite episode on the show or a favorite scene that you got to work on the show?
Yeah, well, anytime they brought the hardware out, because I enjoyed drawing their hovercraft or designing their hovercraft, helicopters and things. I was doing another show around the same time called Galaxy Goof-Ups, which had the old characters, and I was developing spaceships for them. Star Wars had come out in '77, so everything was going space age and Hanna Barbera, including Godzilla. So we had all these high-tech things for them to ride around. And I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was the one where they take a hovercraft out on the ocean. It kind of looks like the Luke's land speeder in Star Wars, except for several people to sit in. I think it was Thunder something, Thunder Island or something.
Thunder Island.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Testing.
Good job.
Two things.
What's your name?
Cameron.
Yeah.
One, how do you feel when people collect model cells, sheets, or production cells on the show? And what are your thoughts on Richard Williams? Because I think he's one of the best animators ever.
Well, next to Philo.
Richard Williams is our god. I mean, he's been my friend for years.
That's
I was
terrific.
very young. I worked with him briefly on Ziggy's Gift, which we did right on the cells. There was no paper and then Xerox onto the cells. We worked directly onto the cells, so we had to be very careful. And we had different colored ink pens that we carefully did our in-betweens on.
Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit was being done while I was working on Mermaid. So we actually inherited the animators once they came off Roger Rabbit. And I was grateful to have them because a lot of them jumped on and started animating Ursula. Yeah. But I love that people are collecting the cells. And I've seen a lot of things that I've forgotten about that people have shown me. Sometimes we would write our name next to the number on the production cell. That's for checking, the checking department. In case there's anything wrong with the scene, they can bring it back to whoever made the mistake, and they can personally fix it.
And
So
get that.
often people find my name on the cell, and they'll show me. So
You mentioned real quick Roger Rabbit. Now, could you imagine an argument between Roger Rabbit, oh boy, I just don't know about this patty cake, and Jar Jar Binks, oh, I need my tongue. Imagine the two arguing.
I don't want to play patty cake.
Oh. How horrified you all are. That's like worse than Ghidorah and all the rest flatulating.
I'm starting to think of Son of Godzilla. One where the boy dreams all this.
Yes.
Son of a Godzilla.
Son of a gun. Son of a Godfather-zilla.
So, Mr. Ranger, sir, I guess we have to ask questions in character now, right? Okay, this doesn't only relate to the Godzilla cartoon.
I guess he's being frank.
All right. You've done a lot of characters, you've worked on a lot of characters, so I just have 3 real short questions. Which one do you like the best? Which one do you hate the most? And which one do you feel is most like you and you put your personality into?
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
Thank you, I'll be running the panel next year. All the stuff he does for me, I just can't stand it. It's like, why am I cursed with this, Charles?
I find what I'm doing with Charles very enjoyable. This person avoided it. Well, certainly Ariel was up there, but you know what? My first assignment on Mermaid, which was Ursula, is very close to my heart. And I never worked on him, but Donald Duck tends to be irascible like I tend to get. I'm more like him than probably any character I've worked on personally.
And who do you hate the most? Cartoon character, not political, and not this guy.
Well, he was a beautiful character, but I ended up calling him Nick Odious because of the pencil mileage involved, and that would be Nicodemus and the Secret of Nim.
Oh,
He also worked on Dragon's Lair in Space.
But he did come out beautiful, but he was a real bear to draw.
I know the guy who designed Rampage, he's cool.
Let's see, I think I had a couple of questions. The first one was, how much work was done where you were at before it was and I imagine it was probably sent overseas to be finalized and then sent back. And then the other one was, what, if not in the Godzilla show itself, what is your favorite type of thing to animate, such or type of character specifically to animate?
That would have been any of the action stuff, certainly the fight scenes. Yeah, we had some great monster fight scenes for Hanna Barbera. It was pretty terrific stuff. Any of the tech stuff, where they got out on the machines, like I said earlier, the vehicles and stuff. That was always fun to do. Yeah, it was a challenge. But they really weren't sending things overseas until around 1981 or 2. And because we were having trouble just keeping up with production schedules. Actually, the first show we were able to complete on Godzilla was a disaster. It had to be gone through and fixed dramatically. A lot of people don't know that story, but we were all called together down to the little theater. And a lot of us had to sit on the floor because there wasn't enough chairs. And we thought, they're going to give us a pat on the back because we're going to finally see the first episode. It's all done. Wrong. We were berated because people were rushing. They were untried. They were brand new animators. They could not draft the characters to save their lives. We worked very hard on the model sheets and tried to create formulas that they could get a hold of the characters, keep them consistent, and it was all ignored. And it was a big old mess. And the vocalizations were off sync. People had to learn how to sync up to the dialogue. It's pre-recorded. It's different for anime because they record the dialogue after the fact, after the animation is done. Here, it's all phonetic, so we have to be able to record first and then animate to that track. They have people called track readers. So the whole thing was a big old mess. There was paint mistakes. So we got a berating, and everyone went out of the room blue. So that was a sad day, but we got it fixed.
Now, were you berated?
Not so much. I was just along for the ride that day because I was in the model shop by then.
Do you remember which episode it was, or what was going on in said episode at the very least?
It may have been the original first, and I think they went with the second when they started the show. So I actually can't remember. It's been so long ago now. Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Sam, and real quick before I get to my question, I just wanted to say, having just seen Secret of Nim for the first time this last year, thank you for your sacrifice, because it is some of the most beautiful animation I've ever seen. My question though is, for those of us that aren't unfamiliar with the work life of an animator, describe to us a work day. What kind of hours, just what are the lengths and conditions your work day is like going through that process?
Back in the early days, we all tended to start at the same time of day, probably 8 in the morning, and everyone had their coffee, of course, whatever they wanted, and just set about doing the task. And you usually get your supervisor to give you your assignments if you were out of work, or you just continue on what you had been doing the previous day. You're usually given a block of scenes when you're in animation, and you just get through those you try to get through those the entire week. Disney days, you're required to do at least 8 drawings a day towards production. More if you can. My poor father, when he was working at Disney on Sleeping Beauty, took 6 years out of the 10 for him to do Maleficent. That's because of the stringent drawing style. Plus it was 70 millimeters, so they had to be very careful with the animation. Otherwise, mistakes will show up big time. So the best they could do was get 3 good drawings done a day of motion. That's how difficult it was. I said 3, you were demanded to do 8. So towards the end of Mermaid production, we had to stagger the times we started and went to lunch because there were just so many people that they had to hire on to get it done in a year and a half.
400 people.
400 people ultimately when we were done. But we had to come in at 8, 9, and 10, stagger, go to lunch at 12, 1, and 2.
Before our friend asked the question, could you imagine, did you know that he is the reason why Ariel has the green seashell brassiere?
Really?
And imagine if Godzilla had had a seashell brassiere.
But here, we have meetings about that.
Could you tell that story real quick, even though it's not a Godzilla
The
thing?
brassiere?
Yeah, the seashell brassiere story. Who wants to do the seashell brassiere? Say, here.
Well, have you all seen The Incredibles? I'm assuming you have.
Yes.
Oh, you remember the scene where Bob's boss comes out? Arrgh! Remember that? Well, that was my day with Jeffrey Katzenberg. After he saw dailies with us, every Friday you get to see the footage that everyone did all week and see if it's working or not, or pat each other on the back. And this particular day, I knew Dan was doing this, Dan Haskett, the animator that was working with me to develop Ariel early on. And he did a first test scene of her with seashell pasties.
Wait, seashell pasties?
Seashell pasties. He actually gave her a slightly bigger bust line than I would have liked for the scene, and he gave them separate timing charts, right and left, to depict underwater current. We ended up using her hair to do the same thing, thank God.
They moved independently.
Yeah, otherwise Jeffrey would have removed our heads from our shoulders.
So that was a Hanna Barbera Godzilla one day. What was he yelling louder?
No, Jeffrey was slightly more severe. I met him during Star Trek The Motion Picture in '79.
He worked on that.
A decade later, here we are at Disney. So, a ton of stories about Jeffrey from back then too, but we were both young pups back then and untried. By the time we got to Disney, of course, we had a career, so. He gets up quietly, like 10 Shades of Red in the theater, and he didn't finish dailies, he just waited and saw that scene and got up and walked out. So I went back to my desk just short of lunch and started working again until lunchtime came. And in the meantime, I heard him go into the director's room. I was sitting in the hallway still. We just moved to the main building from our trailers and hadn't been given offices yet, so I was sitting in the hallway with my desk. Just outside the director's room, I hear Jeffrey go in there and I hear the voices raised. Even though the doors were very thick, I can hear the voices raised. So then I hear the door come out. I hear, Philo!
What did you have to do with it?
Still red. Comes around the corner, like that scene in The Incredibles. And he says, so Philo, what are you doing for lunch today? And I said, well, Jeffrey, I expect I'm eating my lunch. No, you're not. Okay, I'm not. What's up? He says, well, you saw dailies today. I said, yes, I did, in fact. Well, then, you know, I'm having an issue with the seashell pasties. Oh, that. He says, yes, that. We're making white bread here, Philo. Okay? I said, yes, I understand that. I understand this is a G-rated production. What I want you to do, Philo, is create a seashell brazier of some kind. Please make it not be like a target with the lines pointing together, you know. I said, oh, okay. And I want it after lunch. I said, okay. So, you don't say no to Jeffrey Katzenberg if you want to live. So, I did 3 drawings of her with her arms above her head. Turning.
That's how it happened.
Did a figure 8 to start with, and then did the lines not meeting, but going slightly off, you know, off center on each shell.
And that's why it's not a target.
And just developed a quick formula for it. I actually have a clasp for it, but there was no way you could really see that stuff because her hair was covering that part of her back for most of the picture. I think it's in a couple of scenes, but I wanted to put it in there anyway, just in case. So I got to eat my lunch because he loved it, and I got to eat my lunch after all.
Good censorship. Your question and name. And you'll be the last one because we have 4 minutes left.
Oh.
No. You are the last one. No disappointment for you, sir.
Why do you sound like George R. Martin, man?
Because I get the babes to sit on my lap.
Oh my Godzilla.
Then you better get that hat that go with it.
Hats are for nerds.
I said hat.
I see. Oh no, we got a heckler. Go.
All right, hey, my name is Bear.
Yeah.
We spoke briefly yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Secret of New is my favorite all-time animated movie, one of them in the top 3. What was it like working with Don Wolf as a director? Because I'm dying to know.
Wonderful. Every day, I couldn't wait to get in there and get going. And that man generated what you see pretty much all by himself. He did these enormous storyboards that they did the layouts right off of. I mean, that was such a huge time saver. He knew exactly what he wanted to see. He was a man with vision, and that's what animation needed at that time. And of course, everything else that resulted out of that was a blessing. But he was amazing to work with. I learned so much from him. Couldn't wait to get there every day.
All right.
Just amazing.
Thanks.
Good sir. Your last question. Just hold the mic like you're a rock star. Da-na-na-na.
Yeah, and then I'll fail to put it back on the stand and fall right on the floor.
Just give it to that
guy. Hi, I'm Omar, and I was just curious, around this time, of course, you had competitor studios in terms of Filmation and Ruby Spears, which had just started. I was just curious what Hanna Barbera's attitude was towards its fellow competitor studios. Did you watch their stuff? Did you not care? I was just curious how Hanna Barbera thought about the other studios out there.
Oh, well, they pretty much went about their own business, but they were all cranking out product. There was a huge thing called Saturday morning television. Does anyone know that? That's what I enjoyed as a child, and I got to enjoy working on those things. So it's quite a bit different now, a different world, but there was room for everyone back then, and we migrated all over the place. So if someone was done with us for one season, we'd go on and work Filmation for a while. My parents certainly did that. My mother worked on Star Trek at Filmation. She worked on the Archies at Filmation, Fat Albert, and the Cosby Twins.
Last thing that I'll say, one of the most amazing experiences I had being from the outside and how influential Mr. Barnhart's family was. His mother and father met at Disney, and years later, Philo was born, his brothers and sisters. But we went to this one museum event, and there was another side event going on called 40 Years of Funk, which was celebrating African-American characters being in television cartoons. And looking at every single show, either Mr. Barnhart worked on it, Mrs. Barnhart worked on it, or Philo had worked on it. Every single display, which was amazing.
That was an ace too.
In close, I want to thank each and every one of you, and let's all sing the Godzilla theme song together, and I'll start out. 3, 2, 1.
Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breath of fire, he stands in the sky.